Welcome to Rooted Grace. In First Chronicles we followed King David, his worship, his leadership, and his preparations for the temple. Now in Second Chronicles we follow his son Solomon, and the kings who came after. This book focuses on the southern kingdom of Judah. It's a priestly perspective, less about politics and more about worship, reform, and God's presence among his people. We'll see the temple rise, revival spark, and ultimately the people fall into exile. Yet, through it all, God remains faithful. Let's walk through Second Chronicles together. Solomon begins with humility. He asks God not for riches but for wisdom. God grants both. Solomon becomes the wisest man alive. Then he builds the temple his father David dreamed of. It takes 7 years. Gold, cedar, stone, crafted with precision. When it's complete, Solomon prays, "Lord, the heavens cannot contain you. How much less this temple I have built." Fire falls from heaven, and God's glory fills the temple. The people, in awe, worship with all their hearts. Sacrifices are offered, marking a momentous occasion. A national revival begins to stir within the hearts of the people. God appears to Solomon saying, "If my people humble themselves, pray, seek my face, and turn from wickedness, I will hear. I will forgive. I will heal." Solomon's reign is indeed marked by peace, wealth, and worship. But at the end, he strays. Foreign wives lead his heart away. Even great wisdom needs great faithfulness. After Solomon's death, his son Rehoboam becomes king. The people come to him asking for mercy, but he refuses. He chooses to follow foolish advice, and as a result, the kingdom splits. 10 tribes decide to follow Jeroboam in the north, forming Israel, while 2 remain with Rehoboam in the south, known as Judah. So Jeroboam sets up these golden calves and, well, Rehoboam turns to idols too. But when Egypt invades, Rehoboam actually humbles himself. God gives a measure of mercy, showing that even in judgment, he responds to repentance. King Abijah defends Judah and calls on the Lord, and God gives victory. His son Asa brings reform. He removes idols, restores worship, and really relies on God. But later in life, Asa turns to human alliances instead of prayer. A prophet rebukes him, and Asa ends up imprisoning the prophet. He develops a disease but doesn't seek the Lord. He started strong, but, finished poorly. God desires faith that endures. Jehoshaphat walks in David's ways. He sends teachers throughout the land with the book of the law, strengthening Judah's defenses. He seeks God before battle, and when a vast army approaches, he leads a national prayer saying, "We do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you." God answers, "The battle is not yours, it's mine." The choir leads the army, and worship goes before the war. The enemy turns on itself, and Judah wins without a sword. But later, Jehoshaphat makes some poor alliances. Even good kings, they need discernment. The next kings bring a mix of darkness and light. Jehoram, he murders his brothers and dies in pain. Ahaziah follows wicked counsel, and his reign is short. Athaliah, the queen mother, kills the royal family, but one child survives. Joash becomes king at 7, guided by the priest Jehoiada. He repairs the temple. But after Jehoiada's death, Joash turns from God. Prophets warn him, but Joash ignores them, even has one killed. His reign ends in disgrace. Next comes Amaziah, Uzziah, Jotham, and Ahaz. Some start well, but many compromise. Idolatry grows, worship fades. God keeps sending prophets, but the people harden their hearts. Judah is, crumbling from within. Then comes Hezekiah, a breath of fresh air. He cleanses the temple and restores the Passover. He calls the people to return to the Lord. There is joy, unity, and worship. God honors Hezekiah's faith. When Assyria attacks, Hezekiah prays. The prophet Isaiah encourages him, and God sends an angel. 185,000 Assyrians die overnight. Hezekiah falls ill, but he prays, and God adds 15 years to his life. But later he shows off his wealth to Babylon. God warns him, but his heart remains mostly loyal. Revival is possible even in, dark days. Manasseh, Hezekiah's son, is Judah's worst king. He fills Jerusalem with idols, even in the temple. God sends him into exile, but in Babylon, he repents. God brings him back. He removes the idols. Even the most wicked heart can turn to God. But Judah continues to fall. Amon reigns briefly and is assassinated. Then comes Josiah, a boy king who becomes one of the best. He finds the book of the law. tears his robes in grief. He leads massive reform, celebrates Passover, calls the people back to God. But after his death, Judah declines quickly. Babylon invades, Jerusalem falls, the temple is destroyed, God's people are taken into exile. But the book ends with a note of hope, a decree from Cyrus, king of Persia: let the people return and rebuild the temple of the Lord. Exile is not the end. God still has a plan. 2 Chronicles is a call to revival. It shows us worship matters, repentance is powerful, leaders shape legacies, and God honors hearts that seek him. From Solomon's temple to Josiah's reforms, from Hezekiah's prayers to Manasseh's repentance, this book reminds us that no matter how far we fall, God invites us back. And in Jesus, the true temple, the faithful king, the perfect high priest, we find full restoration. Thank you for joining us for 2 Chronicles. Subscribe, share, and return for Ezra, where the rebuilding begins. Stay rooted, stay faithful, and stay in his grace.